My name is Scott Smith. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present to you for the full-time recovery specialist position with Road Cycling Australia in the lead-up to the 2016 Rio Olympics. So what is recovery? Recovery can be thought of in a number of ways. However, the description that I tend to use most is that it's the process by which an athlete's physiological and psychological function is restored. Having said that, it is important to understand that there is also a direct link between the two, in that the psychological can impact on the physiological and vice versa. This connection also means that both can impact on the other positively and negatively. As people and athletes, we are all very different and we respond differently to stimuli. So when it comes to recovery, often a combination of these interventions are most effective when used in conjunction with each other. An example of this is that nutrition post-training is obviously integral in an athlete's ability to recover. But when used in conjunction with hydrotherapy and massage, the athlete actually may obtain a better result. Recovery obviously plays an integral role in high-performance sport, and when implemented correctly and at the appropriate times, it may actually improve the quality and quantity of training an athlete is capable of. This also decreases their risk of overuse injuries. In my opinion, when done correctly and consistently, recovery may actually allow athletes to train and compete harder for longer. Now, there is some science around recovery, and there are leaders in the field like Dr. Joe Vail and Dr. Shona Halson from the Australian Institute of Sport, who have conducted numerous studies on the effects of different recovery interventions on athletes. There are many options available to athletes for recovery, and the majority are inexpensive and a lot are freely available. My firm belief is that it is important for athletes to take ownership of their recovery, and many of these interventions can be driven and controlled by the athlete. For this reason, education plays a really big part in my philosophy. I actually want the athletes to be confident in the approach they take to their recovery, no matter where they are or what resources they have. Recovery options. So as I mentioned, there are numerous recovery options available, and historically I guess cycling tends to utilise massage a lot post-training and racing. Here in this slide you can see that there are recovery interventions that athletes really do need to take ownership of and manage, including the quality of their sleep and nutrition. There are also other aspects of recovery which in a recovery specialist role I can assist with and implement, but at the end of the day the athlete is the one that needs to be driven enough to make recovery a part of their overall program. If successful in this proposal, I would be strongly encouraging all of the cycling athletes in this program to make use of and utilise the services of the AIS dietitians and nutritionists to assist them with their nutritional planning for pre and post event, training and just their day-to-day eating. They should also discuss some strategies for the lead up and during the 2016 Olympics. All of these are things that the athlete can control, and they are part of creating good habits and consistency. Recovery plan. Now, having a recovery plan is important, and it's important for a number of reasons, for both the athlete and the coach. A good recovery plan becomes a part of the athlete's routine. It allows them to have a plan in place regardless of where they are in the world or what facilities they actually have access to. It allows coaches to better plan training blocks and training times to incorporate recovery into their sessions. Adequate and appropriate recovery practices play an important role in allowing athletes to optimally train and compete in the lead up to and during the 2016 Olympics. Recovery protocols should be programmed according to the type of training load, allowing recovery interventions to be implemented at the correct time, and then they can be individualised for each athlete. The 2016 Rio Games will involve a huge travel component for all sports from all nations. And currently sports are looking at ways to mitigate that physical cost to their athletes from the travel in the lead up. Having a strategy in place with contingencies and plans will allow the athletes to concentrate on what they do best. In my recovery role with cycling, my focus would be on providing education for athletes and coaches on why recovery is important to them, particularly in the next 12 months, and educate them on the type of recovery that they should be completing depending on the training they are doing or the conditions they are training and competing in. I will provide specific protocols for each athlete, and they can utilise these when training and competing domestically and internationally, as well as protocols for travel. As part of my role, I will look to purchase a set of Normatec compression boots and an ice bath for travel. These are easy to travel with and provide tools for athletes to utilise within their hotels or even at the airport, and allow our athletes to avoid lag times in completing their recovery. Athletes shouldn't be waiting until they feel fatigued to think about their recovery. Recovery is an all-the-time activity. However, the type and amount of recovery is dependent on many factors, like the athlete's symptoms. Are they actually sore? Are they hot? Are they fatigued? Or do they actually have an injury that needs to be addressed first? Also, the timing of the recovery. Are they post-training? Are they between trainings? As well as the training load or phase they're currently in, the training and competition environment they're in. These are all factors that need to be considered when putting protocols together for athletes. I've attached a sample of some pull recovery options here that athletes might complete based on some of the factors I mentioned in that previous slide. You can see here that it may relate to how they are feeling post a training session. Keep in mind that this type of recovery may actually produce better results when combined with other recovery options. This is also a great tool for athletes to keep with them, so that when they are away from home, they can refer to this. Everything an elite athlete does in training is measured. Power output, cadence, VO2, speed, distance, etc. Being able to monitor an athlete's recovery is just as important, and this can have a direct impact on the measures already being recorded by coaches. I would look to implement a marker system for the athletes in this program, which will involve them completing some information within the AIS Athlete Management System. This information can be viewed by medical practitioners, coaches and athletes, and provides daily data on athletes' general soreness, their general well-being, as well as training load information where it's applicable. Depending on the need, I may even implement some other markers such as a sit and reach and a vertical jump test to provide further information and data collection on monitoring the athlete's load. The collection of this data over time assists in determining fatigue levels, and it can be a really useful tool for both coaches and support staff in preparing and planning sessions. As I said, monitoring athletes' fatigue levels and well-being is an important part of recovery, and it can be used to assist coaches when they're planning their loads, their training loads. It can also be another way to minimise the risk of injury due to overtraining. The Australian Sports Commission have invested heavily in the AIS Athlete Management System, and this system provides a platform for monitoring athlete injuries and treatment. There are important reasons for AMS is that it provides information on, as I mentioned, daily soreness and general wellness. It's also used by most national sporting organisations, and it has the ability to house large amounts of information, which is really useful to numerous stakeholders. And the general soreness section of AMS allows athletes to rate their soreness on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being very low, 10 being I feel amazing, and indicate exactly where their soreness is on these figures here. This information can be vital in minimising the risk of injury from training, and can also be a really useful tool in managing athlete loads. The general wellbeing section is another area where athletes provide information on a number of wellbeing markers, ranging from their sleep quality, their motivation, and even their appetite levels. It asks about the quality of sleep that they had, how many hours of sleep they had, things like these. Again, athletes will select from each option and they will grade it from 1 to 10, 1 being poor, 10 being very good. And this information can be used to determine if an athlete may need to alter their training loads. Over time, it also provides useful information that can be collated and graphed for planning training blocks and where recovery might fit into these blocks. I'm fully aware that most elite sport, work under tight budget constraints, and cycling is no different. For this reason, I've been very selective in the type of interventions I will look to implement and have limited the proposed spending. There are a couple of purchases, however, that I feel would be important moving forward, and I have included the purchase of a pair of Normatec compression boots and a portable ice bath and cooling unit. These items are easy to travel with and set up, and they will allow the athletes to utilise them post-travel and in between sessions wherever they are. The Normatec compression boots use a dynamic sequential compression to mimic the muscle pumps of the arms and legs. This can enhance the movement of fluid metabolites out of the limbs. Combined with a massage and hydrotherapy, this can be a very effective recovery tool. It is a non-invasive intervention and can be a great passive recovery tool for athletes when they're having downtime. The ice bath and cooling unit are both lightweight, and whilst the cooling unit is not a necessity, ice is not always available. And the cooling unit allows us to set the desired temperature of the water, which can aid in athlete compliance and may provide more effective results. So I am confident with the plans that I have for road cycling group over the next 12 months leading into Rio Games, that as a group we can minimise the load on these athletes and maximise their ability to train and perform at the required level for success during the upcoming Olympic campaign. Thank you very much for your time and also for your consideration.